Support for Fameless is brought to you by Ready Quick Dry Cleaners. Is that fan mail? Did we get fan mail? We got fan mail. Ugh, that is not perfume. My dearest Guy, I wanted to write you a poem from my heart and express the feelings I've had from the start. Aw. I wish that you were here with me so I could bludgeon you with my fists. You arrogant, self-centered, control freak narcissist. You came into my life and changed it forever, and now you're the reason I own a revolver. Doesn't even rhyme. So I wouldn't try to come home anymore, or I swear I'll shoot you right through the door. Signed, your loving soon-to-be ex-wife. P.S. Happy Valentine's Day. Have fun with your stupid podcast. Anybody have a spare bedroom? Anyone? Well, this sucks. You're watching Fameless, a podcast for the rest of us, where we examine the curious human desire for fame. We'll explore the alleyways and byways of artistic expression as we search for the avenues of fame, and talk with the fameless people we meet about what fuels their desire for it. For the only people who know more about what it takes to make it in this world than those who made it are those who didn't. So come along with us on our journey down the bumpy road to fame, where we'll discover the only real difference between the famous and the fameless is one right turn. Hello, I'm Guy Holling, and welcome to Season 2 of Fameless, a podcast for the rest of us. If you've been here before, welcome back. In honor of Valentine's Day, we thought it'd be fitting to do a poetry edition of Fameless. As we can all agree, breaking into poetry must surely be one of the more difficult avenues of fame to navigate. My guest today is here to help guide us through that, as we attempt to map out everything from Homer to hip-hop. He is a writer, poet, and philosopher whose ideas on the meaning of life fall somewhere between Aristotle...
Doing things for the sake of themselves.
Yeah.
And having that be the primary objective to whatever it is you do.
And Monty Python.
Once saw a giant 6-wheeled army truck pull past Krispy Kreme during one of those nights.
So please give a warm welcome for Kristian Zenz.
I love racing. It's something that I've been enamored with ever since I was young. Thanks in part to my dad, who actually raced himself decades ago. IndyCar, WRC, Formula One, NASCAR, I guess. All of it really fascinates me, and it's a thrill and adrenaline rush to watch cars race by. I love all kinds of races, even those that occur just a mile away from my own house. I love her eyes, the way those high beams look at me, a highway star, hypnotize my black and chrome bumblebee. I love the gaze, those highlight beams set me free, never cease to amaze the black and chrome bumblebee. Whether it's a Civic or a 458, Friday night at sunset, pull up, not a minute late. Stallus summer nights, black top drag strip, a frozen custard club frenzy, a Krispy Kreme craze, and a dream of destiny. From Greenfield to Layton, a symphony of sound, run after rampant run. Contagious cacophony, the pulse never goes numb. High off potent vibrancy, ethanol is my girl's LSD. She's a fighter and a boxer, but ain't no legacy. She falls asleep take her out, make her a backseater. In line 4, no need to shout, he wears a white wife beater. They come from Lake Country or the 53146. Every zip code to get a whiff of gasoline fix. Lawn and Tall Sally, Slim Jim, and slicked back chicks. Mr. Roboto and electric cigarette sticks. Back for eclectic atmosphere. Passion on the street, they are too knee deep. Cold-hearted but bleed blue antifreeze. Money don't fold, but it sure as hell creeps when you can't pay back Japanese lease. Screen written by Norm Lear. Fumigations fall like the water of Niagara, wet like Pennzoil, that's the AutoZone Viagra. Sour city slickers in hysteria, small suspension in small town America, carbon fiber wings at the rear. Rolling coal is the show, keep lovers laying clear. MAGA mad hatters running high off of fear. Blazing orange down the road but ain't hunting deer. Farmers' boys with daddy's toys, rubber-necked sneer. Adorn profane slaying at the rear. Supercar showcase stands strong in stride. Ferrari's his first love, but on his third wife. Appears once a year to stab youth like a knife. Hot shot, Oscar lot, larger than life. By midnight he will disappear. As we all do. Highway is the savior of our masculinity. Cruising over vulnerability, synchronized in symmetry. We glide across suburban skylines in gray GTRs. We race at red lights, redefining rules of the boulevard. The pursuit of unity in all 6 lanes. The fight for feeling free, the scent of Mary Jane. The pursuit against police, we feel no shame. Wind-blown blonde hair, orange and purple flames. Like the living dead, we haunt those in the way. We keep it 100, for that is our highway.
You're watching Fameless, a podcast for the rest of us. After the break, we'll talk poetry, philosophy, and life, as well as the experiences Kristian has had on that bumpy road to fame and the challenges he's faced in pursuit of it. We'll be right back. Groovy poem, man.
Thanks.
That was like Scooby-Doo, wow, wow.
Oh, God, what?
This is poetry, man. I mean, what?
Yeah, but, like, what are we doing here? What is this?
I don't know. I researched a bunch of modern poets on YouTube, and this is what they all did. I mean, is this not what you do?
Well, in my experience, we're not all like this. You must not be subscribed to my YouTube channel, @Kristian Zenz, if you're interested in viewing any of my prior performances.
Seriously, all shtick aside, I've been on that YouTube channel, and it's great. I encourage you to check it out, because the young man is amazing. Poetry, philosophy, writing, brilliant. So I just want to say, Kristian Zenz, welcome to Fameless, a podcast for the rest of us. And thank you for being here. It means a lot.
Thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
I just want to start by saying what an amazing art form poetry is, and I think more people need to get back out and experience it. I came to one of your shows, loved it, and the eclectic mix of poems and performers was just really inspiring. It was amazing. And when I think about learning high school poetry, I remember the Romantics, and I think that's part of where things went wrong. I think the Romantics cemented this idea that a poet's life needs to be as tragic as their poetry is transcendent, in the words of Molly Flatt. And I think that's so incredibly true. So if people could maybe just forget some of the things they learned in high school poetry, do I want to say that? Do I want to say maybe don't think about poetry in the way they learned it in high school and get out into today's modern world and experience it like I did in a live performance? It was brilliant. It was awesome, and I loved it. Just the energy, that venue, the whole entire poetic community is profound, and you don't even know about them.
There are elements of academia that are always prevalent within poetry, but a lot of the human nature that makes poetry, that gives it its beauty and its eloquence, sort of gets stripped when you try to teach the fundamentals of it. There can be lots of math involved with poetry, especially with sonnets and
Absolutely.
creating things that resonate with higher brow audiences and things like that. But poetry is a form of expression that should be accessible and adaptable to absolutely everybody.
Absolutely. And not just in viewing or, enjoying other people reading their poems, but taking a shot at writing it yourself.
Absolutely.
I think that, again, talking about the academia, people think that there's formulas and rules and structures, and there are.
There can be.
Right, absolutely. Like you talked about in sonnets or haiku or any other things that are limited by structures and rules. And we were talking earlier, and you said you feel things. And I'm like, yeah, that's it. So do I. And if things sound like they rhyme, if I feel like I have a certain number of beats per meter, I think I'm writing poetry.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's what you want to say, what you have to say that really makes it poetic. I mean, think about the beat poets, right? So if everything was like free verse, nothing was rhyming, there was no structure, but it was still melody.
Yeah.
There was still so much being said poetically that's like, wow. And he's like, it's amazing.
Yeah. I appreciate the technical terms that can come up within poems. I appreciate structures, and I use them as guidelines sometimes, especially if I can't come up with something necessarily organic on my own. But the most important aspect of any good poem is how it makes the reader feel. And if the meaning and the words are an authentic representation of some situation or some individual, not that it has iambic pentameter, not that it rhymes every 2 lines or so. All that can be used to enhance your piece, but what people will remember the poem for is how they felt in the moment upon hearing or reading it.
Right. And if it's written from that same viewpoint, that same feeling, it will transfer to the audience.
Absolutely.
For sure. So let's talk about Highway 100. I absolutely love that poem. I just think it's so great. And I don't want to say this and then make you think I'm thinking that, you have to exist in somebody else's shadow.
Yeah,
but I'm a huge Tom Waits and Bruce Springsteen fan. And when I hear those words, almost lyrics, I just feel, oh my God, that's like, Born to Run. It's like any Bruce Springsteen song where he combines love and cars and power and all this amazing stuff. Adrenaline, not power.
Yeah.
It's an aggressive word. But adrenaline, brilliant. I loved
Appreciate it.
I loved it. And what makes me connect to it even more is I was born in West Dallas, right? So this is like my hometown. Granted, we moved when I was pretty young, still within the area. When we got our driver's license, Highway 100 was like the place to go.
It still is.
You didn't know why, specifically. You just knew that there was somewhere out there that your car could take you. And that's the whole automobile generation, right? It's like you get in your car and drive, and you could be anywhere.
Absolutely.
On the highway, driving on the highway. It's just brilliant. And somehow, anyone who has never been there, if you listen to that poem again, and you flush out the characters that he has managed to identify as standards of that experience, they're brilliant.
Yeah.
You've got every character living out a Friday night on Highway 100.
That was the intention.
It's brilliant.
I appreciate it. Every person that comes up in that poem, I've seen there. There's satire intertwined with it. All, have to laugh at yourself as well while you're out there. But ultimately, that poem is a reflection of just witnessing the phenomenon that is highway that occurs out there.
Yeah.
So many different types of people
Right.
are all unified under a singular love for just enjoying the summer night, getting a scoop at Oscars,
Yeah.
and having fun with that. That poem is on my latest poetry collection. It's called Vernacular Whirlwind. That was the last poem I wrote for that collection. It almost didn't make it. It was written about 2 months before I had planned to publish it.
Interesting.
Just 2 months beforehand. I don't know. I was driving home from work one day, and just the ode came about while listening to Kendrick Lamar and Joy Ride, whoever I listened to. All those artists combined, just wanted to create an ode and an honor to the culture that arises via highway.
Yeah. So just in listening to you in that few moments, 5 things popped into my head. I'm going to remember one of them. So if you can remind me to talk about ideas in a moment. But one of the things that poem does for me is all of the legend and lore. Is that the right terminology? All of the mystery that surrounded Highway 100 as you were growing up.
Yeah.
You got in the car with your friends thinking that that's what was there on any given night. And you'd get there and you would make the loops and you'd make another loop and you'd make another loop. And you'd be like, well, nothing really happened. Let's make another loop. Let's make another loop. And I don't think we realized that was all it needed to be.
Yeah.
Is just cruising.
Yeah.
Maybe you roll down a window, talk to somebody next to you once in a while, like American Graffiti. It was brilliant. It's so brilliant. And so your poem allowed me to live out what I was looking for every time I went and somehow failed to find. And I love that about it because everything in my life is rather make-believe, and I love satire and I love creating moments.
Yeah.
And when I wouldn't find them authentically there, I think when I hear your poem, that's what it was. You allow me to live it in a way I wanted to live it then, but couldn't for some reason. 16 years old, who understands?
And that's okay.
You know? And I love it, so thanks for that.
Absolutely.
It's
just about finding being in the moment of it.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily looking for some objective behind it, just going out and having fun on the Friday or the Saturday night, just for the sake of itself.
Right.
Doing things for the sake of themselves.
Yeah.
And having that be the primary objective to whatever it is you do.
Yeah. And the impetus to get you out there in the first place. Because if you're not out there, serendipity is going to leave you behind.
Yeah.
Right? Chance, serendipity, all of those amazing, things that happen in the moment. Mm-hmm. But if you're not out there in the first place, serendipities happen all around us every minute. Who knows what's happening on the other side of those doors?
Yeah.
But we're sitting here.
Right.
But to me, this is serendipitous. And we need to be able to live in that moment and create an understanding and connect with the serendipity that is around all of us at any given moment. And yeah, that's it, right? It's just get in your car and go out and something's going to happen. You just don't know what.
No.
Yeah.
And
so
it
cool.
doesn't, you don't necessarily need to know.
Right.
And any of those characters could be in that pursuit of unity.
And they are. And they are absolutely out there. Every one of those characters you talk about is real.
Yeah.
Like the guy in the Ferrari with his third wife.
Yeah.
I mean, it's brilliant.
Yeah. I remember this, I don't remember his name specifically, but I remember the guy. He has a McLaren, a 675 Lawn Tail or something like that.
Now that means nothing to me, but I know McLaren is expensive. Fancy stuff.
Just fancy blue, eye-catching mid-engine supercar.
Yeah.
And he was talking about starting a 50s style diner or cafe somewhere that people could meet up, like a real meetup place for highway, the avenue of synergy, as I put it. And he wanted to buy the old Boston Market on Cleveland, right across from Walgreens.
Yeah.
That did not happen. That's a bank now. He had another bank.
Wow.
They're building banks everywhere. But it's just interesting that how, those nights resonate with those people so much. Mm-hmm. doesn't matter what kind of car you have, what make or
Yeah.
model you have. It's just it
What class, what
unifies people.
demographic,
Yeah.
everybody is there. Yeah, you're right.
We all tend to bash heads, especially in this political climate.
Yep.
But it puts that aside and says that we are all just looking for the same thing.
Right, right. You mentioned earlier that, this being our Valentine episode, that Highway 100 to you is a love poem.
Yeah,
I think that's great.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's an ode to the community that arises via those summer nights.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that wonderful, iconic little strip out there called Highway 100.
Mm-hmm.
And all the people who can connect to it, you can just imagine. So how old were you when you wrote that?
So I wrote that in about just over 2 years ago.
Okay.
Even though it's about, those Stalis summer nights.
Right. Yep.
Wrote it in January 2023.
Yeah. And when do you think that those ideas started to well up inside of you? When did they start to form inside of you and you weren't even aware that they were forming? How young were you when you became exposed to Highway 100? Would you go with your dad in some of the cars that he has had? And
So my dad raced professionally for a very long time, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. In terms of Highway 100 itself, it helped that I lived nearby for the vast majority of my upbringing.
Yeah.
Most of the times I would see it in its, its more relaxed urban pace of just being a thoroughfare to get to the bank or the grocery store.
Yeah.
But, when the curtains come down, the headlights turn on, and there's just a sea of new characters, and their cars reflect that.
Yeah.
Right there. Usually the lot of choice to meet up is the parking lot of Oscar's Frozen Custard.
Right.
And you'll just
Shout
see
out.
so many great iterations of automobile culture and automotive enthusiasts there. The Mazda MX-5s and the modified Civics and the Ferraris, Lamborghinis. I once saw a giant 6-wheeled army truck pull past Krispy Kreme during one of those nights. It's insane the kind of things that you will find there,
Right.
and it's really cool. It's just really fascinating to see. Not even if you're not necessarily into automotive culture like that, just seeing a phenomenon unfold in front of you is always great.
Yeah. So then you get this little nugget of an idea and you start rolling with it, and suddenly you have an ode, like you mentioned. Yeah, I love it. So when did you talked about having books published? When did you get your first poem published?
So the first poem that I officially published, I self-published it onto my website, which is www.myname.com, by the way. And that's called Leaves in Motion. And that is an angry, welled up poem to tell someone to leave me alone.
Yeah.
That was written my junior year.
Wow. 16, 17 years old.
16 years old.
Yeah.
October 2019. The title is a pun, leaves in motion,
Sure.
like the leaves are falling towards the ground. I leave in swift motion, or I leave a motion between the two of us.
Nice.
Just
Fantastic.
a three-way type of thing.
Yeah.
That was the very first poem that I ever put out in the public
Sure.
for viewing. The first poems I wrote seriously were back in 7th grade. I still have one in my archives called Musician Factory, about being like anti-pop star and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And poetry emerged as a serious form of mine in 2019, and I've just been rolling with it since then. It's been the thing that I have been most accustomed to, and the thing that the writing form and the art form that I have been most passionate about since then.
So high school was not a place, as Billy Collins, the poet, says. High school for you was not a place where poetry went to die.
Not at all.
That's awesome.
In fact, it gave and bred life towards my words and my work via, dealing with, social interactions, dealing with your own insecurities and all the ugly stuff that arises via the high school experience. I do read poetry, of course, and I read poetry throughout my college career as well. But primarily the lyrics in music were the things that I was most drawn to, that my parents would play for me and things like that.
I feel like that's a big motivator for my ideas too. Absolutely. It's just the lyrical poetry. I think that's one of the most accessible forms to people, obviously, and the thing that everybody will come across when they're exposed to music, they're exposed to poetry.
Right.
Do they realize it? No, because it's not one of the dead British guys, and it's not using all this symbolic, strange, metaphoric nonsense that gets you going, what is this even about? I want to know what it's about. Right. Yeah, so I think it's interesting. Like, our earliest exposure to poetry is probably as infants, right? When somebody sings us nursery rhymes.
Yeah.
And then maybe a few years later, we become familiar with the folklore aspect, like Ring Around the Rosie, playing with friends. And then we're in grade school, and maybe we're hurling insults at each other, like liar, liar, pants on fire. And I just think it's kind of a humorous look back at our exposure to poetry.
It's always been there.
Right, it's always been there. And then when we enter middle school, we might have a little love interest. We learn roses are red, violets are blue. And ironically, that poem dates back to like 1590. I think that's amazing. We don't know this. And then high school, oh my goodness, high school, again, like Billy Collins points out, high school is where poetry goes to die. We are exposed to it so deeply until our high school years, when all of a sudden something happens, and like we talked earlier, it becomes really academic, and we shut down, and we don't even write it. We don't even try to experience getting into something so deeply, feeling something, not being afraid to feel something so deeply that you will work your tail off to find a way to express it unlike anyone has ever known.
That's precisely what I try to do when I create these poems. Being human and feeling is tough. To get away from those feelings, to get away to, silence those feelings and those emotions as much as we can, because they're tough, and especially in this socio-political climate, sometimes we don't even know where to begin regarding the expression of these kinds of things.
So isn't it easier to just shut it off, shut it down, instead of getting in there and figuring it out?
Well, I think it's easier, but I do not think that's good.
No. It's as I was saying here, it's like we need poetry in order to transcend ignorance.
Absolutely.
Which, as Miller Williams points out, is spreading like rot.
Unfortunately, yes. Poetry is the most eloquent form, and philosophy is something that, along with poetry, are seen as, mere luxuries or things that someone may be able to do or to ponder or to toggle with in their free time. They're not actually considering what's important or what's real, like, the mathematics of how to build a better world or the science behind it. And that's not to undermine the value of either of those practices. But writing is a language and it is a skill that is absolutely necessary in order to, make light of all of these complex issues. For philosophy and for English, we have to translate these complex ideas into latent terms so that, everyone can understand it. So not everyone has to be a environmental science major in order to understand that climate change is indeed a real thing. We have to be the mediators between those who are doing the back-breaking work and those who are just trying to get by. Poetry is the way to express that, and I feel like over time, poetry gets mislabeled as something that is just for a select few people to, mess with on their
Right,
own
right.
becomes an exclusive or an exclusionary art form. And it shouldn't, and it isn't
Right.
that kind of thing. Like when you came to watch us read at the Woodland Pattern Poetry Marathon. By the way, Woodland Pattern does fantastic work in the
Absolutely,
community
right.
for River West,
Yeah,
as well as the greater vicinity to put poetry out there. We saw all sorts of different faces and all sorts of different people share their work, whether it be via Zoom or Comcast or be up there on the stage in person. We want poetry to be the most authentic expression of what we are feeling and what we need to do to grow as a society. And we all do philosophy, and we all do deep thinking, regardless if we want to or not, because that's precisely what makes us human,
Right.
is the ability to consider what our own thoughts
Right.
mean.
Absolutely.
The moment we decide that we don't want to do that will be our inevitable downfall.
Right. Right. Yeah. Only creature on the planet that has the ability to think about our own thoughts. Just think about your own thoughts right now. Just think about that. It's brilliant. The other aspect of poetry is it's storytelling.
Yes.
And the greatest way to validate life is to tell your story. So earlier, you were almost earning the fake cigarette. By the way, you were getting there. I was feeling it come out of you.
Yeah.
So I think we have a moment here. Okay, we're gonna have a Charles Bukowski moment because I was seeing it. So you can't tell me you're not a little of that. When you're getting into deep thoughts, right? You don't have to have this and this. Of course, it's silliness.
Right.
But Charles Bukowski, anytime you look anything up, he's just brilliant individual. I want to read just a little something here. Charles Bukowski. Poetry itself contains as much energy as the Hollywood industry, as much energy as a stage play on Broadway. All it needs is practitioners who are alive to bring it alive. Poetry's always been said to be a private, hidden art, not appreciated, which is what you mentioned. The reason it's not appreciated is because it hasn't shown any guts, hasn't shown any dance, it hasn't shown any moxie. That's my Charles Bukowski for you. And I truly, absolutely believe that. So,
As do I.
if Charles Bukowski is at all an influence to you, who else would you put up there as influences?
So in terms of the more traditional literary poetic atmosphere, Sylvia Plath is
sure.
up there. Emily Dickinson is up there.
Again, these very tortured souls whose work was transcendent.
And just there are many more that inevitably sneak in as I look around. Langston Hughes was a primary motivator in my, especially in the poetry that I wrote in high school.
Sure. So I want to talk about where ideas come from for a minute. The poet Michael Longley was asked where he gets his ideas from. And his response was, if I knew, I would go there and never come back. I think that's genius. I love that so much. So I know with my silly little adventure poems, they start with a phrase. They start with maybe the opening line. They start with one little few words. And if they resonate with me and I think, wow, this is an adventure about to be had, I just go with it.
Yeah.
And I start out writing and see where it takes me. And I just let the poem take me on some amazing, glorious adventure. And I enjoy it. I don't know if my poetry is any good, but the experiences I have writing it, and then when I do read it, I have that experience all the time, over and over.
I think that's what matters most.
Right?
Is that if it can reaffirm the things or the emotions that you have felt or re-engage the experience that you were initially inspired by, then that is a good poem. It doesn't matter if someone else can confirm or deny that. If you have your own affirmation about that form of expression, then there's enough beauty in that in and of itself.
Right. Yeah, well said. So your ideas, where do you think, where are you? What happens? Boom, there it is.
My ideas usually stemmed from anger. It's a lot of the time. Like the first poetry collection that is out, Deadly Grievances, that is about a breakup of the most long-term relationship that I had.
Valentine's special. Whoa, breakup.
Uh-huh.
Sorry about that.
It's been 3 years. No, I'm over it. It's been 3 years.
Okay.
I've not dated anybody since.
Oh,
But,
goodness.
yeah, it's fine. I'm my own best company.
I
in
know,
that sense.
right?
At least I try. And my words.
Yeah. Who's the one person you're guaranteed to spend your entire life with? You.
Exactly.
Boom, there it is.
Might as well make a decent relationship with
Yeah.
yourself.
And when you've got art, when you've got forms of expression, really, you don't think to eat, drink, sleep, go to the bathroom. It's like all those basic biological needs. I think creativity and creating is one of those needs.
I absolutely
I truly 100% believe it. Because I don't think to eat, drink, sleep, go to the bathroom. I just
You do
keep
it.
going. And it's
And it's the same thing with poetry for me, or whatever creative medium I'm most engaged with at the time.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
just something that I have to do.
Yeah.
The next goal is to work with Woodland Pattern and their poetry fellowship.
nice.
This next poetry collection, which already has like 20-something poems, huge spoilers, haven't told anyone this, is to keep developing that, keep developing visual artwork to
Yeah.
complement that,
Right.
developing the concepts and the titles for it, and then sending that over to them to truly do it justice, to truly do it right, and to potentially publish with a local publisher or even someone bigger than that. But even if that all fails, I do intend to self-publish yet again because there is no way that I can hold back these creative ideas.
Right.
I have to flesh
You
them out.
shouldn't have to. No one should have to. For the sake of gatekeepers,
Right.
right? Publishers and people who say, no. All you got to do is find the right person.
Exactly.
Fame list. It doesn't mean you're a failure. It basically means you want to be part of that thing through which fame may come. Doesn't matter. You just want to be part of that thing.
Yeah.
You want to be part of that thing.
I don't.
Who cares?
Right. I don't desire fame. I like my anonymity.
Yes.
I like being able to walk outside
Right.
and just go about my business. Maybe if fame brings me, a steady income,
Right.
that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Or it gives my artwork, my artistry, the attention that I feel it deserves.
Right.
It'd be nice.
Yeah.
But I can sleep at night without that as well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep trying.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because you're not failing
Right.
at all. So I don't ever want Fameless to be about failing.
You
At all.
cannot measure success via others' eyes.
You're absolutely right. So here's a fun little thought for you. So we're talking philosophy and poetry, right? So I came up with this in the shower the other day. Talk about where ideas come from. Yeah, something about the shower, something about the hot water and the sound that makes me a literary genius.
Uh-huh.
And when I get out and turn off the water, all the ideas go right down the drain with it.
All the aura is lost.
Gone.
That's what they say.
And there's something about the water and the noise. If I could manufacture that and carry it around with me everywhere I go, it'd be amazing, right?
That reminds me of a song lyric. Stressed Out 21 Pilots.
Sure.
Tyler Joseph, who's a fantastic poet, by the way, he's talking about, taking the scent of his childhood and manufacturing it into a candle.
Yeah.
If I could make a candle, I'd sell it, never sell out of it. I'd probably only sell one or
Right.
something like that.
Right.
Because that specific moment resonates with just you. And
Yeah, it's your
there's-
collective
there's
experience.
enough beauty in and of itself.
Right.
So
Yeah. Cool. So here's that crazy thought. Are you ready? And we'll
Absolutely.
ponder this philosophically. It's not the insufficiency of words that makes expressing love difficult. It's the insufficiency of love that makes finding the words difficult. So don't you think poetically, as a poet, that's our main goal? to find ways to express those feelings through words that have never, maybe words that haven't even been defined yet or discovered or established. Going about this process motivated by something so powerful as to find an end to the means of expression, instead of stopping short and saying, well, love must not be that powerful because I don't feel motivated enough to go to the ends of the earth to find a way to express it. And I think we stop short with cliches like, oh, words are not sufficient, words can't begin to describe, and blah, blah, blah. I think it's a responsibility of all of us to figure out ways to express more accurately what we truly are feeling, and not be afraid to feel it.
Right. You have to.
Anger, love, sadness, joy, all of it.
You have to try. And I believe that trying is good enough.
Yeah.
Trying to express how you feel and potentially failing or making a piece that isn't good enough or up to par with Rupi Kaur, just to spot or just to rhyme with that.
Yeah.
That's completely okay. The fact that you have made the effort to navigate the complexities that are running rampant inside of you is more than good enough.
Yeah.
And I think something that affects my generation especially, everything is so immediate. Everything is just right there for the taking. And the ideal individual or the ideal person that we want and the ideal expression to voice our feelings about that person to them is all laid out for us on TikTok or Instagram or wherever. And the truth is that you will rarely find that in real life. The standards that we have set are far too high. There is no room for failure. There's no room to be human anymore. And we need to bring the human back more often than not. We have to reap the beauty out from the ugly.
Yeah. Being able to find beauty in ugliness, and maybe not even letting there be a definition of either, but just an acceptance within, right? Because when we know something is beautiful within our heart and soul, and suddenly there's something ugly that took its place, we lament forever the beauty that once was, instead of bothering to see the beauty in what we deemed ugly in its aftermath.
Right.
Fire, right? Maybe learn to find beauty in the ashes as well, and that's a tough mindset, but I think it's possible, and I think it's necessary.
Yeah.
You know, I think we could sit here and talk about this all day.
Over bourbon, absolutely.
Yeah, over bourbon. Over our actually, it's tea and paper, fake little cigarettes. And candy. Yeah, this is a great marketing scheme for children. Grew up with candy cigarettes, but I never smoked. And so I was okay. I escaped the marketing ploy by Big Tobacco. Anyway, I thought it would be a fun idea if we each read one of our favorite love poems to close out the show.
That. That's a great idea.
So I've got mine on good old-fashioned paper here.
New-fashioned cellular device.
Nice. Perfect. All right. So should I start?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Here we go. So this is called Midnight Train to Moscow. Come on and run away with me. Now, while there's still time. We'll steal away as lovers do, and it will be sublime. So take my hand and come along, quick while no one's looking, to a world of pure make-believe, just made for queen and king. A place where no one knows your name and time stands ever still, a real-life fantasy island with a castle on a hill. When we hear the royal family is throwing a grand ball, we'll climb the gate and bump the guards and scale the castle wall. We'll drug the butler and the maid and steal all of their clothes, then tie their hands and lock them up, and as them we will pose. We'll walk among the royal family and society's elite, then trash talk their shit decor and make fun of how they eat. We'll stuff ourselves with hors d'oeuvres and fill up on champagne into the wee hours of the night when time begins to wane. We'll make love in the library on the soft bearskin fur, among the books of etiquette and stuffy literature. Then break into the gallery to steal a souvenir, like a famous Corot painting, the pretty Ville d'Ivray. We'll wait until the time is right to smuggle the landscape, then hide out in the oratory to plan our great escape. We'll catch the midnight train to Moscow, head straight to Gorky Park, see the brilliant sun rise slowly to the song of a lark. We'll climb atop of Sparrow's Hill, look out at Seven Sisters, monuments to communism, socialist resistors. We'll look out toward the dark Ukraine and curse Putin's madness, for the thought of children dying could bring no greater sadness. We'll notice that we're being watched by two men in gray suits, then stealth our way through crowded streets to foil their pursuits. We'll steal a classic motorbike from the vintage auto house, then change up our identity with a new shirt and blouse. We'll summon the ghost of Steve McQueen and let him be our guide, then take off across the meadow to the countryside. The soldiers will chase after us, soon we'll be outnumbered. I'll crash the bike into barbed wire coiled around cut lumber. Take notes as we go out, my friends, in our blaze of glory. If we should meet our fateful end, don't forget our story. 20 soldiers will surround us and aim at us their guns, but just as Butch and Sundance did, straight at them we will run. With our finger guns ablazing, we'll shoot as if they're real. The soldiers will shoot back at us, bullets of lead and steel. I'll take a bullet to the thigh, you'll take one to the chest, and down we'll go into the grass with bloodied leg and breast. I'll press my hands firm to your chest and put my lips to yours, and as we share our final breath, I'll share these final words. My dear, if I should have the chance to do it all again, I wouldn't change a goddamn thing from beginning to end.
That's quite the story.
An adventure poem.
It's an invigorating adventure.
It's an ode to my love for cinema. You see, there's a lot of references in there, right? So just like Highway 100 was an ode, right? Love poem. This is a love poem to cinema.
Absolutely.
So yeah, an adventure poem, right? So that was mine.
Painted a picture with it.
Yay, I hope so.
This is not about me. This is about a couple I knew from my high school.
Disclaimer.
That went here, and I don't really speak to either of them. I think they respect me. Nothing went wrong per se. Just time was distant. Time made distance. So
names and faces have been changed to protect the innocent.
Right.
Okay, here we go.
The names actually aren't mentioned.
It's
called Lovebird. I know the names, but I don't think they do. Clay-colored is the skin underneath these lovebirds, yet they boast pink, red, brown, blue, colors of the birds that may just paint me a brand new hue. Yes, you are one of them. You're the victim of lying tension, never honest, seeds to plant the stem of my brain's attention. Lovebird, you're coughing up feathers of my own design. Still, so still, you sit in the windowsill, perched like these words that just so happen to flow off the tongue of my own. Oh, really, careful what you say. That elegant display of affection, she may fly due south, and forever spilled are your intentions. So winter came, and you said you were cold. In my defense, I was told the light shines down, but the tree will provide shade no matter the season. Yet you are mad. What is the reason? Winter is here. I never shy away, nor do I show fear. The light shines down, but the tree will explain all of the changing seasons. Yet you must leave. What is the reason? Lovesick, psychotic, my bird, you are. You made me cry that fateful night, longing for lust, lusting for life, lusting for one ride down the tunnel into topsy-turvy turmoil. Lovesick, psychotic, absurd you are. I lost you. You took off in spite for a major flight, one of strife, the flight to ride down the funnel into the spill of Louisiana oil. You're stuck in slick slime, forever yours, once not mine. Fly down the funnel again and find more of the same thing in due time. You're stuck in grease and grime, flying no more through earth's wine. You struggle, struggle again. Wash off in the fountain and sing. Indeed, a fool am I. It's lovely.
Wow, a love poem. That's amazing. I love these psychotics. Say the line again. My psychotic.
Lovesick, psychotic, absurd you are.
Lovesick, psychotic, absurd you are.
Lovesick, psychotic, my bird you are.
Alliteration?
Yeah, love is weird and love is tough. And
Yeah.
if you love somebody, you will be willing and able to
Right.
push through all
Right.
of that BS and
Yeah.
come out on top and come out with renewed emotions and longings for that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I have found such a person or a potential person to be that person with me. I don't know if they can say the same thing about me, but gotta try.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which brings us to our closing quote. I think this is a perfect one to end on. So this is a quote from the Afro-Surrealist Manifesto. And I think it's right up there with what you're talking about. Beyond this visible world, there is an invisible world striving to manifest. And it is our job to uncover it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that sums it up right there. It's our job to uncover it.
Everyone's job. Not
Right.
just the poets
Right.
and the philosophers. Everyone's.
Right. A world is awaiting to manifest itself, and it's our job to uncover it.
Absolutely.
Wow. Well, thank you, Kristian. I appreciate it so much. It
Thank
was
you.
a joy. It was a joy talking poetry and philosophy and reading some poetry, and I think this brings us to our close in the style of Charles Bukowski. In honor of Charles Bukowski. Oh, I forgot the fake
Forgot the
bourbon.
bourbon.
In honor of the late, great Charles Bukowski, may he rest in peace. Thank you for tuning into Fameless, a podcast for the rest of us. We hope you can join us next time when our guest will most likely be fameless, so you don't know him anyway. So until then, stay fameless. See you on the highway. So in honor of the late, great Charles Bukowski, we raise our glasses and rest him peace. No, may he rest in peace. I got nothing in me.
Dude.
I am completely shut down. I am drunk on tea
We're this close.
and stupidity. Write that down. I am drunk on tea and stupidity.
Okay.